Greetings, true believers, and welcome to episode 57 of the Pull List Podcast, a bi-weekly show about comics, pop culture, and faith. My name is Chris Poirier, and with me, as always, is the one, the only, the as seen on DC Swamp Thing, Hector.
And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the podcast.
Even till the end of the podcast. Oh, it's so good to be back and into the swing of things. There's so much comic stuff to talk about, so strap yourselves in and prepare yourselves, for we've got comic sign.
Better put the word out. Get ready for the nerd out. Better put specs on. Better bring next song. I cut handsome shit.
On today's episode of the Pull List, we have a wonderful show for you. We're going to hit the latest news that you need to know, our must-pull recommendations from the last 2 weeks, our fave new number ones, and so much more. We might even talk about some of that stuff you see on the little screen in your living room. This is the Pull List Podcast. So wandering over into our high-tech newsroom studio, also known as the closet with the door on it that I podcast in, we've got some wonderful / interesting news. I don't know if it's wonderful. Some of it actually is kind of a bummer. So I guess I should start with the bummer news first. But I think it's safe to say that all of us were really, 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 really hopeful that we wouldn't be hearing the words COVID and delay in the same sentence as comic books. But here we are in late August 2021, and DC Comics has released a list of a little over 26 titles that are going to be delayed in some way, shape, or form over the next 3 to 4 months. And they're citing supply chain issues related to COVID with port closures overseas and complications of getting stuff from point A to point B. So this time it's not a pencils down type circumstance, or at least they're not saying that out loud. They're blaming the supply chain. But the things in the notes for all of you, and it's a long list of DC stuff. So if you're looking for certain DC titles over the next couple months, just know that some of them have been slowed down by some of the stuff that's going on, and yay, here we are.
Is that Red Hood issue 3 coming? Is that one of those?
Let's go to the list, shall we? Red Hood is not on this list. Yeah, I guess you're just never gonna get that book.
It wasn't even good. I just want an end.
Well, sorry, bro. They're at least not throwing that one under the bus, I suppose. But yeah, so it is what it is. But I suppose on a now slightly better news front, we mentioned during our Substack discussion last week that Tynion is moving on from Batman. And so that created the vacuum of the obvious question of who was going to take over the mainline title. And it has been announced that DC's own and like their dude that does the stuffs, I don't know if it's unfair of me to say this, but I feel like it's a good comparison, but for different reasons, that Joshua Williamson, who I would say is DC's Donny Cates, that literally DC's like, you want to do a book? Here you go. You want to do a book? Here you go. Josh gave us the super long run on The Flash, which I thoroughly enjoyed and was super excited for. So I'm interested to see him on a Bat book because he tends to be dialogue heavy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, the couple times we saw him do Batman with like the button and some other stuff, I really enjoyed.
That's a good point. And he usually he really seems to dig the detective side of him. So I'm wondering if that's going to be kind of the change that we see in the main line going forward. But either way, I think he has done great stuff with DC's content. So it'll be interesting to see if this is one of those where we see a very significant shift in the writing style of Batman and the story, or if it kind of holds on to the 90s nostalgia vibe that we've been getting so far with Tynion. But it's hard to say. Fear State is coming. We were talking about that before the podcast, and we went, hey, we record this for people to listen to. So we'll talk about it now that yeah, Fear State's coming. All the books are going to go into that event, and then something's coming out the other side. And we've been talking about this long stretch of we've been doing the 5G is canceled, but then Future State really felt like 5G. And then we went on this vibe where Future State became part of regular canon and was somewhat confusing. Now we're going to get to Fear State, and that can go any direction because I fear whenever you bring the Scarecrow in, was all of this a fever dream? And not going to lie, I might actually be visibly upset if that's what they're going to do to try to fix this. But we shall see. So either way, we're going to get to see Williamson on a Bat book again, and I'm excited. I'm about it. It's good stuff from the DC side of the house. And kind of to tie together some of that DC news that I think is worth talking about here is we also mentioned when Tynion said he was going to go over to Substack with some of his projects that one of the things he was going to do was the secret history of DC and 5G. And Bleeding Cool thinks they've kind of sussed out what one of those things is and found a discussion where part of Tynion's original plans for his ramp up post Tom King was he legit, no kidding, was going to kill the Joker in Batman 100. And I don't know how I feel about that because we have a lot of books where that discussion is currently going on in real time. In stuff that is canon adjacent. Because now it's just we got Bat and Cat, and that's literally what's happened there, which is technically Tom King finishing out what was supposed to be his original pieces. So now, I guess, now that I think
what is it with the fact that a writer, even a qualified writer, feels like in order to tell a good story, they have to kill the Joker?
Right? I feel like we must be there, right? Is this the jumping the shark and DC's editors actually are doing the right thing and going, we hear you. Yeah, that's not been done in canon, but we've done it a lot. So what's your angle? And then here we are. We kind of all have different sides to this. And Tynion's draw out of this supposedly was where we were in mainline was, basically the Joker's crime syndicate takes over all of Bruce Wayne's money, take over the Wayne Foundation, just owns everything that is Batman. And now that Alfred's gone, Batman has lost his moral grounding, supposedly, and that all of that's going to be enough to drive him to you know what? I'm done chasing. I'm just going to do the thing. And it's like, okay, I mean, that's a thing, but literally, like you just said, in Bat and Cat, Tom King's like, yep, gonna have Selena Kyle take care of that for us. And we've seen other Elseworld stories where Batman loses it and does this, and we'll save it for a little later. We are going to talk about Titans live action, so if you're not through at least episode 3, you can stop listening after we finish the news for a little bit, because we're going to have that discussion out. But it relates to this particular topic. So I got nothing, but it is interesting that he would have aimed for the current Batman 100 to do so. That's a big number book move.
That would have been going in with him only doing like 14 issues or something.
Yeah, it was going to be super tight. And if you go into and see some of the notes and back and forth, there's some sleuthing that's been done of, was this actually planned and still canceled? Tynion's probably saving that for his podcast, by the sounds of it, because there's some compelling arguments that some of the things that Tom King set up in the end, that was the direction. But then again, we also knew that by reading Bat and Cat, whatever the order is, that Tom King wanted to get there too. So question mark? But it does, you're right. It does seem to go to that. Okay, who haven't we killed multiple times? Or, yeah, well, I don't know.
And that's the thing, going back to it with Kevin Smith, back when he did his, one of his runs on Batman. I don't remember if it was Cacophony or The Widening Guy or whatever it was. He goes into a whole speech about why he can't let the Joker die. That he can't be the one to kill him. And, I'm like, Kevin gets it. Jeff Loeb gets it. because they've all been there. But I don't know. Just killing the Joker seems like you want to put your mark that you're the one that did it in canon. And
right. Yeah, and the more I think about it now is one of the time that I picked Batman back up in earnest was at the end of New 52 and the Endgame run, where, again, they basically, they juke faked us that that's what was going to happen in Endgame. That's another great example that if you look at the end of Snyder's run and read the conversation that occurred between Batman and Joker when Batman had the ability to kill him at the end of New 52 as well. And they literally did that ongoing conversation of we need each other, which everyone's like, oh, it's so weak. And it's like, no, this is literally the definition of a codependent relationship. And oh yeah, that's not healthy, but it's the reality of their existence. This is a light and dark side of the balanced force argument. And a lot of people didn't love Endgame, and the more I think about it, the more I actually did like it. Even though that after that we got super heavy and things got like real wild for like a second.
I thought that was great. Like there's one of the covers to it too was like a Dragon Slayer type thing.
Yep.
And I loved that, man. Like I've got that framed somewhere.
So, yep, it's just one of those things. Comic books will endure forever. And so will the Joker, apparently, because even if you try to kill him multiple times in adjacent universes, he'll keep coming back. It's just how the multiverse works. I don't make the rules. So that's a thing. And I guess we'll just have to wait for Tynion to release his series on the secret history of DC and 5G and see if he tells us more of the story. So we'll keep an eye out. And then finally, I have to be the bearer of somewhat bad news, but then confused news on the Marvel side of things, because we talked a lot about how wonderful Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil has been, because it's been wonderful. But apparently we've only got 3 issues to the end of the current arc existence ? That 2 weeks ago, Marvel kind of came out and said, yep, 36 is it. And then a week after, Chip Zdarsky went, is it? And the entire comic book world went, this is why we don't like comics. So Daredevil is going to end its current existence in some shape or form at issue 36, is what's currently being reported. But Zdarsky and team has said, well, that's the end point of something, and something bigger is going to follow. So it sounds like there may be an unannounced event that's going to follow that Chip's going to be the underpinning of. So I'm kind of excited for that. But I also do want to kind of throw something really heavy and hard at the head of whoever created the final issue, because they're doing the one thing in comics that just makes my head hurt. So spoiler, not spoiler, because I actually mentioned this the last time we talked about Daredevil, and this ends up being a I hate when Chris is right moment. And that's that Fisk is going to actually marry Mary. And that's going to be the culminating event in 36. So why Chris hates these things. Marvel's done a lot of weddings. And in the last 2 to 5 years, most of them have been money grabs with tons of variance and absolutely no impact.
Pause. When have they
reality?
not been money grabs?
I mean, that's fair.
Name a Marvel wedding, a genuine Marvel wedding event that felt authentic and wasn't a money grab.
I feel like I got to give the first Spider-Man one some credit. Sure, money grab, but that one at least made sense.
Yeah, but when was that?
A long time ago. Like, I'm pretty sure Stan wrote that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
All right, fair. now that we've established that reality. But yes, that wedding books in between the big two, not just Marvel, have not done great as of late, because they've either been very gimmicky or actually literally fake weddings. And because we don't have a lot of context for this relationship, because it's been so low-key noted in the issues, and we literally only are going to get 2 more books before the actual event, I'm kind of like, huh. But I feel like I have to give some faith in Chip Zdarsky because he's done so well so far that there's a point here. But that's what's happening. So I'm going to read it, and we're probably going to tell you about it. So stay tuned and keep an ear to the ground because something's happening in the Daredevil universe, and that future's coming. That's all I got on that one. So I don't know if you had any more news this week. Not a lot jumped out at me for the last 2 weeks.
I meant the Far From Home trailer or No Way Home trailer.
That's true. We're getting stuff on the screens, and Tom Holland didn't leak it. It came from somewhere else.
Well, I just did a whole podcast analysis of the trailer with someone else, but it's just like even then, since there's been more stuff that's popped up, and just little things like that the suit that Tom Holland is wearing when Ock says hello, Peter, is the same suit that Maguire is wearing in the third movie.
This movie is going to make all of our heads hurt, isn't it?
And so, like, people are saying that that's a deep head fake or a deep fake. That's actually Tobey Maguire when he says hello, Peter.
Oh dang!
That they're just messing with the trailer, and then like people were pointing out Doctor Strange in jammas and stuff, and I'm like, the whole thing is frozen. There's ice everywhere. Of course he'd be wearing like a hoodie and stuff. But then surprise, people are saying it's Mephisto.
Right.
Because there's the one poster that's got Peter Parker as the devil, and there's at one point like you hear Strange's voice, but almost demonic, say, "Be careful what you wish for, Parker."
Right. Yes.
Which leads us to the fact that we're about to get a live action version of One More Day.
Right. And that seems to be where a lot of folks are leaning in on the trailer, and that makes sense. And honorable mention / semi-spoiler, if you are still reading Spider-Man after Hector and I were like, what happened? And I kept reading because I wanted to see how Sinister War played out.
I'm kind of reading.
So note, break, possible spoiler. It kind of actually is all Mephisto. Like legit this time.
Yeah.
And so I kind of actually want to see how that plays now because we're about to find out. We're about to get is it a double reveal or a triple reveal of the character we've been following for like 30 issues now? But they did a final panel of the dudes finally picking his thing up, and it's like, so it's not Osborn? And so, yeah, anyway. The short answer is Spider-Man, Marvel, it's probably Mephisto. I guess that's just where we are.
I need to make that a sticker.
Right? It's probably Mephisto.
With like a shrug?
Right, with a shrug, yeah.
Making notes right now. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, write that down. I only want 50% credit.
Noted.
Yes. So yeah, there's lots of stuff going on out there and almost too much for us to keep up with, but that's what you need to know. That's our bi-weekly look at the industry and delivering all that wonderful inside knowledge. And as always, you can join in the conversation with Hector and I and all of your other nerdy friends at the Love Thy Nerd Discord or in our Facebook community. So come along with the journey. Tell us what you liked, what you hated, or possibly even what we missed, because there's a lot of stuff out there. We probably missed something. So yeah, join us and geek out with us.
What's up, nerd? You digging this podcast? Well, the audio enjoyment doesn't end there. Visit LTNOnAir.com and make LTN Radio your new go-to for the best Christian rock, rap, pop, and indie, as well as our exclusive LTN shows and podcasts, some of which air on the station before they're available anywhere else. Visit LTNOnAir.com to listen now and find the link to our app. Now back to the show.
But for today, we actually want to take a slight aside in the middle of our regularly scheduled program to bring back our segment of Because It Matters. So we can give...
sparkly noises.
sparkly noises. We have our coffee mugs in our hand and like a sweater vest or something. I don't know. It just feels very cozy. Troy and Abed in the morning kind of thing. And
I really do need to watch Community.
You really do. So Titans live action is back, HBO Max. And Hector, my dude, episodes 1 through 3. So again, spoilery stuff noted here. Your boy Red Hood, and some stuff going on here. So Hector, how about we get Hector's musings on the opening 3 episodes of Titans and what they've done with your beloved Red Hood?
First of all, it's like they put it on fast forward.
Yeah, I have to full-heartedly agree with that.
That's like literally we go from Crowbar to Red Hood the next day, and I'm like, the actual crap just happened.
I'm still uneasy with how they filmed that scene. And just the Joker feeling very cartoony, but also very real. And I was like, wow, death in the family just happened like at lightning speed.
Yeah, it was a lot. And but also I know there are 2 episodes I haven't watched yet, and that's its own thing. But no, it's just like, personally, it was chilling to see the crowbar scene and everything. That was a lot. But like not having a funeral, like not having any mourning, and like I feel like they not jumped the shark, but I feel like investing in that dude to play Batman, I always forget his name, but we know we're talking about it.
Yep.
Investing in him to be Bruce. Yeah, we get a good, villainy actor, but like none of him says Bruce Wayne to me. And or Batman. And he was more believable as Batman on Downton Abbey. And I don't know, it just feels so weak sauce. Now, one of the things that we've heard, or that I've heard from friends, is that he's too short to be Red Hood. That he was fine to be Jason Todd because he could still grow into it.
Right. He is a little dude. And also his voice and everything for me, even with the modularization, I'm like, oh, it's Little Hood. Yeah.
Now here's the thing. With the modulation and everything, he sounded like he was doing his best to do his best Jensen Ackles. And he was like, I get, oh, look, that's like, you're trying to do Under the Red Hood voice. Look at you.
Aw.
And it was great to see certain things, like the classic introduction of him with the duffel bag full of heads. That was dope to see. There was the stuff that we've seen, like, of just, oh cool, it was cool to see that in person. And the fact that he was quoting Hamilton when he was fighting Nightwing, that was cute. I don't know, like,
outgunned, outmanned.
You know the tune, outgunned, outmanned. I'm like, stop it.
Stop.
I'm like, of all the Bat family to watch a musical, it ain't gonna be Jason. Jason is not sitting around watching Hamilton, although I could be wrong, and although I would actually really enjoy that, just watch all the Bat kids sitting around reenacting Hamilton in the Bat Cave. It'd be fun.
That's an Elseworld I would pick up.
I would pick that up. I could picture Stephanie jumping in the cave, and Peggy. Don't sue us, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Too late.
Too late. It's over. Because we're definitely on his radar. But I felt some of it was good. Some of it was smart. I don't know. I really liked the whole thing with the little like back and forth with Hank. But like him sitting around in a lair. Because, like, when he was making the phone calls and stuff, he was, like, in a straight-up emo villain layer. And right. I'm like, dude, this isn't Red Hood. Red Hood doesn't have an emo villain layer. It wouldn't have neon lights. It's not Joel Schumacher. I mean, what's happening? And like the thing with the bomb, like, okay, kind of creative, I guess.
Yep.
Weird. And
we had a ticking clock episode. Yep.
We had a ticking clock episode, and what I did appreciate about that is they pulled that back down to the end of the Under the Red Hood arc, where it was like you got to shoot me to, you got to kill him or you got to kill me, one or the other type thing. Him with the gun at the end of episode 3 very much felt like the end of the Under the Red Hood arc right before we jumped into 1 year later. I don't know, man. It's cool to see someone dressed like Red Hood on screen. I feel like he should have been killed in episode 1, and we got him as Red Hood in the season finale. I feel like
because now it's where are we going?
Yeah, and I granted there are 2 episodes I haven't seen yet, but even that, and I love Hawk and Dove, and this iteration of them, I thought they were great. And so I genuinely am sad at the loss of him.
Yep.
But, I don't know what's happening.
I also did want to say that one of the positives out of the entire thing is we talked about it. It feels weird to have that person be Red Hood, but it's been displayed really well. Playing off from Dick and his Nightwing has been really great.
Dick's Nightwing has been great.
And the whole ticking clock episode where they're like, we're gonna get the solution and everything that, this is the spoilery part, like everything else, but we've already mentioned, Hank doesn't make it. And it literally is the end of the ticking clock. And, I won't give you the why it happens because that is worth a moment, because first of all, I was like, oh, they actually are going to do the superhero thing and it's going to work. And when the bomb goes off and he's dead, I'm like, I legit didn't see that coming for the entire episode. And I like being surprised by superhero shows. And I thought that they did a really good job of weaving that in and out of, they're going to make it. Well, maybe they're not going to make it. No, they're going to make it. It's going to be cool. I think it's just good live TV, and it's still brooding, which is DC small screen stuff. And the Titans aren't always light. This is not Teen Titans Go, fam.
Well, the one thing it did do, it made me miss Young Justice.
That's fair.
Because, Young Justice took 3 seasons and we just got a glimpse of Red Hood. Just barely. And I'm like, I like that development. Like, let's go down that road.
Oh, you didn't want instant Red Hood?
I would have been happier if we started out with Red Hood in full effect and got flashbacks of how he got there.
That's fair. It involved a crowbar.
Yeah. Either way, I'm happy it's happening. I'm happy Titans is a thing. It's not CW.
Yeah. No, so. I think folks have heard us say before that we're both very much subscribers to the Kevin Smith philosophy on comic book content on screen, and that's that I will be always thankful for the fact that it exists because someday it won't.
And for so long it didn't.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to watch all the things, and I'll have an opinion on it, but I'm still going to watch all of the things because we've got it, and it's now. So we're all about it. So I have seen at least I've seen episode 4, 5 dropped just recently before we recorded, so haven't got that in my head yet. So the transition is a little weird. But they're transitioning to other people. But should we at least give a shout out to? It feels like the weirdest version to date of Dr. Crane, but so far I'm loving that dude.
It is the weirdest version to date. But yeah, he's fun.
Yeah, I never really thought of Scarecrow as heavily sarcastic, and I'm kind of liking that version. I was like, I guess the dude is that smart, that probably snark is where he lives, where he's always kind of been a very villainy villain. This version is like, you're like, that dude's evil? And it's like, oh yeah, you could tell that dude's evil, but he's very snarky about it. And I guess I didn't know I needed a snarky Dr. Crane, but here we are.
And that's the thing. It's people getting to do their own stuff with things. You get the room for some growth and development.
For sure. So we'll revisit this probably as we see more of the season and see how it unfolds. But we wanted to give you kind of the first glimpse because we do take in all of that comic book content in other forms and format. And with our resident Red Hood specialist, we had to at least spend some time on it.
Have you ever been around another person who used a word or phrase that you were absolutely certain that you should know, but you didn't? Well, of course you have. Hey, don't worry, nerd, because we've got some great news for you. You're about to learn something brand new, and this will be useful. Not like that throwaway knowledge like math or science. This is the real world, bub, and you need to be able to hold your own in a nerdy conversation. So pull up a chair and pay attention, because LTN's got another nerdy definition for you. This week's definition is Eurogame. Now, this is a tabletop term referring to a type of game generally originating outside of the US that incorporates indirect player interaction and abstract components. That definition has drastically changed over the years to include US titles and very intricate pieces in some of the games. These types of games differ from their American counterparts in that they don't necessarily encourage direct conflict, drama, or require a significant amount of luck. I'm sure that we're going to go over those kinds of games affectionately named Ameritrash in a future short, so stay put. Games like Settlers of Catan, Carcassonne, Five Tribes, Puerto Rico, and Brass are just a few of the games that fit into this category. And Euro games also tend to be fairly lengthy plays due to the amount of strategy necessary to accomplish your given goal. So, the next time some overenthusiastic alpha nerd starts to talk about how much better Euro games are than any other kind of game, you can lean in and enjoy the show because, well, you understand that reference.
This is a great time to transition into the stuff that we actually read during the week. So, Hector, what's been in that long box of yours that
First
has
of all,
kind of...
I need more long boxes.
Yeah.
Because I went 3 years only doing digital, and now I remember why.
Yep.
Because I'm out of space. Like, that's a legitimate problem.
You're like, oops.
So let me just say this. Had it not been for Chris, beating me to the sign-up sheet, this would have been a week where no DC was in my pulls. In my top pulls. Because I was going to drop Moon Knight in there for issue 1 and 2, just because I know you did 1, but I was going to say I caught up. And Moon Knight's delightful, but we'll hit that when you get there.
Yes, it is delightful.
So saying that, let's jump right into the obvious. Nightwing 83 is the one that came in that place. And I stand firmly by this, that I believe that Nightwing is the best book in DC as far as heart and storytelling. And it very much is the heart of DC books right now. And
I think that's fair, because kind of a side note here is, don't misunderstand, fam. DC books came out. We both read a fair number of DC books. The latest Bat and Cat came out in the last 2 weeks. Didn't make Hector's list, didn't make my list. Shrug. I can't speak to the why. And I'm not sure why you feel Hector, may be the case, but it feels like something shifted in the last month or so in DC writing.
Yes. Now,
So-
granted, these things are not being written right now. These things are long written.
Yep.
These things were written months ago, but there's a shift. And like the current detective arc is like, okay. The stuff I'm reading is okay. But like I feel like I have to read this because I have to read this. Nightwing almost every time is delightful. It's good. It catches me off guard, but it feels like when I think like it's the thing of I have not watched Ted Lasso yet.
Neither have I, and apparently I'm a bad person for it. So yes, all of you that keep telling me to watch it, I'm sorry.
Well, and that's the thing. Like I legitimately have envy because I want to watch it. I don't have Apple TV, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend that right now, or I have to like if I spend it, I don't know, I have time to watch it.
Right. Same.
But I think there's been like a thing of like we need good, encouraging, positive male figures in every format,
Sure.
and the whole shenanigans of Nightwing being memory loss and everything else just felt so bad. Like in the long term, just like this is lame.
Can we all spend a minute and just mourn Rick Grayson?
Oh, Rick.
Ugh.
Would have been great if Rick Grayson came back as Rick Grimes. That'd be great. But no, like coming straight into this and getting to see Nightwing be an amazing character, a good heart, getting to see a really good relationship with him and Barbara, with him and Tim, with the dog, and like giving us new character development. Like everybody made a big deal about Punchline and characters that is like, okay, cool, you're here, but like we got technically a new sister for Nightwing, and the story just keeps developing better with that. And that you've got, not only is she Nightwing's sister, but she's been raised by the Zukkos. Like, so it's literally like if Bruce's parents had a kid with the Chill family. I mean, it's like that. It's of you're the byproduct of the people I lost and the people that took the people away. And it's just this weird thing. But she's also got a bunch of layers to her character. So she's only been around for like 3 issues. But I've really enjoyed seeing her development. We get Blockbuster back, which, Blockbuster gets written off pretty easily. And he's seen him a million forms. But I enjoyed Blockbuster. But also in this villain Heartless, who like literally the last page of the most recent issue of Nightwing, there's a Heartless image, and it literally gave me chills. Like, oh. But issue 83 of Nightwing, we see that overall, Nightwing is in the place that he's inherited all this money from Alfred, and he can't stand the idea of being a billionaire when other people are in need.
Right.
And so he's not going to sit on it even for like a day. He goes and he talks to the Titans. He talks to some other Bat family. He goes and talks to Superman to get their opinions on what he's planning to do. And I don't want to spoil that because it was actually really worthwhile to read. But honestly, I got choked up reading the most issue of Nightwing because they're talking about Alfred, and Superman says, "I really looked up to Alfred," and and Nightwing literally pops his head up. Superman looked up to Alfred Pennyworth. He's like, he was the best and heart of you in all the ways that he raised you guys and loved you and all these things. And he said, "I see a lot of him in you." And I'm just like, oh, my feelings. And
My heart.
it was a really, really sweet moment. And then like Bruce even chimes in a little bit later with some tenderness, and I'm like, see, this is why I like these characters. So yeah, Nightwing 83 still the best book in DC. but it's the end of an arc. So if you just want to pick the 6 issues up before that, I think that's 77 through 83. I believe it's a great storyline. Jumping past that, Eve number 4, fun story. It took me a minute to catch up, but it's a apocalyptic thing. The world is destroyed. There's a virus that turns kids into monsters once they hit puberty, and one little girl has a vial that has the potential to restart the whole planet.
Terraforming is a nightmare. Got it.
Yes. And the girl is being guided by a robot teddy bear type thing, but also turns out that the robot teddy bear also doesn't want humanity to survive.
Plot twist.
Yeah. The teddy bear is only programmed to keep her alive.
Oh. Conflicted programming.
And so, the teddy bear legit wants to. His name's Wexler, by the way.
Even better.
Yeah, it does fit. But you get to see him transform into giant robots and junk, and it's pretty. And just start slaughtering things. But it's just a really interesting story. And then, the issue 3, because we're on issue 4 is already out, so this by this point it's not a spoiler. Issue 3, they show you that she's not the only one.
Interesting.
There were 6 clones of her made.
Oh.
She's the youngest and the last. So the 5th version of her is out there and nearing puberty. So at one point in time, she is aided by a version of herself who is about to shuffle off this mortal coil, because she's about to hit puberty. And so there's just this beautiful scene of a little girl who's only known her own mind actually getting to talk to another girl, and it's herself. And so she already knows her own fears and doubts and insecurities. It's just a really well-written little piece, and for only 4 issues. So it's that. Bunny Mask 2. I picked up Bunny Mask because it had a cutout mask on the first issue, and I thought that was cool.
That seems about your speed. That seems fair. Go on.
I was like, this looks novel. I'll try this. And it turned out to be a pretty freaky murder psychological thingy, with a malevolent being that's I don't know if they're inflicting justice or vengeance. Picture the Spectre, but with claws and a little girl in a bunny mask.
Yeah, that's not creepy.
And she's constantly hearing voices telling, stuff, and it's just this. You can see this dude is going down the rabbit hole of his own mental stability.
I see what you did there.
Hey, oh, look, it's a pun. Didn't even plan that.
Quality podcasting material.
Yay. So that I don't have a lot to tell you. That doesn't totally because there's only 2 issues that I'm aware of, and I don't have a lot to tell you that wouldn't spoil things. But
that's fair.
A dude prevents a child's murder and witnesses this bunny mask thing. Fast forward 15 years or 10 years or whatever later, they're reconnected, and the bunny mask thing is taking over his life. Good way to go.
So, pro tip: if you are Googling information on bunny mask, put the word comic after it. Thank me later.
Oof.
Yep.
Yikes, jinkies.
Internet rules apply.
Oh. So there's that. And the other one for my standard pulls are Doctor Who Missy number 4, which that's the culmination of the story. There's only 4 issues to that story arc. I'm a Whovian. I bleed TARDIS blue. I have a kid named after a Doctor Who character. It's where we're at in my life.
Can verify. 10 of 10.
This is a 4-issue arc that picks up towards the end of the 12th Doctor's run. So this would have been season 10, roughly. This would have been season 10 era. Obviously, it's Doctor Who and you can fit wherever you want. But this would have been right before the season finale of 12. So like before Bill and the Cybermen, for those who care about that stuff. But it's the 12th Doctor and Missy on their own adventures. And the 12th Doctor and Missy loves to make fun of the Doctor being the Doctor. So she's like, I'm Doctor Who. And like she does all the meta fourth wall breaking stuff. But it's a 4-issue arc where basically Missy is pretending to be the Doctor. And she's tag teaming with an older version of herself, or himself at that point in time, the Master. She breaks the Master out of a prison, and Missy and the Master travel along the Doctor and the Master's timelines, looking for something. And so you get their current interactions, past and present, on a bunch of key moments in Doctor Who. And you get to see Missy be her best. And Missy is one of the best creations in New Who, period. And for her to get a 4-issue arc where she just gets to shine, and you get a little bit of the 12th Doctor, it's pretty brilliant. I wasn't ready to get River Song. And literally I turned the page and saw the curls and geeked out. So you get a little bit of River Song, not a lot, but a little. But I read the first issue like when it first dropped months ago and stopped caring just because I didn't have time to read comics. But I read all 4 of them this week and it was delightful. So if you're a Who fan, Doctor Who Missy, there's only 4 issues. Totally worth it. That's me.
Cool. I can honestly say I haven't looked into the Who comics. I always see them because Titan does a really good job of getting the word out on them. But I guess I'm just not Whovian enough, which makes me a bad person. I know this. Because I think in my watch through, man, I don't even remember. I'm barely in the 10th Doctor? Yeah. There goes all my nerd cred. It's good. So yeah, what I read some stuff. So, yeah, no DC stuff. You kind of hit that part. But this is now the second show in a row that I think I have more than one Marvel book. In fact, most of my stuff is Marvel this time. So I should probably take it in that order. I've been talking about Strange Academy since it came out at number 1. Well, Strange Academy number 12 came out in the last couple weeks, and it is the end of the run. So you now have the entire story of what happens when Doctor Strange basically runs a Hogwarts for X-Men kids and mutated and or gifted magic wielders, etc., from across the multiverse. And everything that you expect to happen basically does. Scotty Young paints a wonderful picture. I mean, it is Scotty Young art, and it is beautiful, and the last issue's got a lot going on, but it is basically that feel-good high school storyline that it's got all the things that it has, all the pretty much almost all the tropes that you would expect, like Parents' Day and field trips and like all that stuff, except that it's X-Men and magic wielders and that they're teenagers figuring out how their powers work, and that doesn't work out so great. And then the big bad comes along and tries to mess with all of them, but at the end, all of them bound together and they succeed in life, and they have wonderful memories of a truly horrific experience. So I don't know. I still say that, I don't know if I can't say the story was mind blowing or anything like that, but it's a great looking book. It's a complete distraction from super serious comics or stuff that are kind of very superhero-y, but has that content in them. So I'm going to say, yeah, you should pick this up and you should read it because it's pretty and it tells a great story and it's completely mindless, which sometimes some people out there are going to get this. And I don't know, Hector, you and I read so much stuff and some of it like is really narratively heavy, like Tom King, Batman dragging his dead mom around in the desert to
Pause on that note real quick. One of the things that I forgot that I had kind of a revelation about the desert thing. I was reading one of Tom's political posts because if you aren't aware, Tom served in the military in Afghanistan.
Oh.
And he was, militarily involved in Afghanistan for a hot while. And so he said, I'm not going to be commenting on what's happening in Afghanistan on my Twitter. I'm just going to keep it comics, etc. But know that I spent years there, fighting there, doing these things, blah, blah, blah. And so when you go back and look at the dragging your dead mom through the desert thing from someone who actually spent years in military service dealing with grief and loss and stuff while you're in the desert.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point.
I was like, oh. I was like, just that one tweet of his backstory, like, really put it into perspective. I was like, there's something there. Like, that's one of the reasons why I guess we visit the desert so often in that run.
So there you go. So yeah, there you go. Like literally in the middle of talking about something kind of bonkers and off the wall, you get that reminder. So yes, there are comics from across the entire spectrum, but this is one of those like you can disconnect your brain and enjoy. So Strange Academy, not dragging your dead mom through the desert, but literally the opposite of beautiful colors and kind of off the wall, just what you expect from a teenage story, except that all those kids have mutations or powers. The next book is another one that I've been talking a lot about out of Marvel, and that's Nonstop Spider-Man. And I've told you before, I will repeat it now, that the title of the book is literally the point. It is nonstop, that the story has...
That man is nonstop. Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you got it. How many Hamilton references have we gotten up to? Not important.
Hey, there might be more. You're just gonna have to wait for it.
Yeah, I am. For the record, I am not everybody's favorite fighting Frenchman, but see, too easy. Count it. But Nonstop Spider-Man, number 4. This book literally does just. It's breakneck speed that as a story ends, the next one literally just starts and it's almost confusing, but it's the point. It's that Peter hasn't stopped moving since the first panel of the first book. And that's really freaking creative when you get down to it and you start absorbing this. It's a beautiful book. Like I was really impressed with how it's laid out, with the action and everything. There's some neat stuff done with panels. There's a lot of full 2-page spread type stuff in it, but it literally is he solves something and like the next bad guy is like standing at the edge of the battle. So it's like that Scott Pilgrim feel of this is just never going to stop. But Peter is at 200% snark during this whole thing. And I really would love to see this in a la Into the Spider-Verse animation, because this story would feel really cool done that way. So if you're looking for another break, yes, it's a superhero book, but it's so fast and there's actually not a lot of dialogue in it because of that. They're trying to push the action panel to panel, page to page, that it just keeps going. And it's really kind of a unique thing for comics, and I dig it. I'm all about it. So much love to the Peter Parker in this universe, because he not getting a break. And that brings me to our final Marvel book on my list, and then I'll save my indie for the very end. But and it's Moon Knight. Insert shocked faces, because I love me some Moon Knight, and Spectre is still just being crazy. And we have noted that they show us an example in this particular story that we know it's Spectre out of the 4 personalities at the moment. They actually give us a visual cue to let us know, even though for folks that know Moon Knight, they should know that the person we've had so far is definitely Mark Spector. But he's still taking on clients. He's still punching stuff in the face at night. His helper apparently is a vampire. So when stuff happens, like we have I'm a vampire, but I'm a good vampire. And the dude comes in all bloodied and she's like, can't do this, out. And I was like, okay, that's meta funny right there. Cause even Spectre, all of them were like, what just happened? And it's like, yeah. And so this book is just going to keep being silly, but is also going to get into the weird. And those are all the things that I love about Moon Knight. So I'm just excited to see how that plays out. I know you kind of came to the same conclusion. I don't know if you have anything to add. I don't need to jump up and down on it. Just be reading Moon Knight if you're looking for a very different feel from Marvel.
And just say it was the breath of fresh air, kind of refreshing. Felt like a good Marvel book. So
right. It's fast paced and it's fun. So, and I think literal craziness is going to come because that's just that world.
This week in Nerd History, you're getting old, Harry.
Nerd history.
In just a couple months, the movie version of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone will turn 20 years old. Sorry, you had to hear that. But of course, the book is even older. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, as it was originally titled for release in the UK, was Jo Rowling's debut novel, and one she worked on for over 6 years. Several publishers passed on the book because it was too long for their liking, coming in at about 90,000 words before edits. Young adult novels rarely went above 80,000, and many were half that. And even though the final draft of the book came in at just under 77,000 words, every book after broke the 80,000 word barrier, with Order of the Phoenix topping the series with 257,000 words between its covers. While Philosopher's Stone released in the UK in June of 1997, the US rights were purchased by Scholastic the April before for $105,000, which was significantly higher than average. The book was then released in the US on September 1st, 1998, under the name Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone because Scholastic thought the word philosopher would sound too archaic for American readers. Within a year, Sorcerer's Stone topped the New York Times list of best-selling fiction and stayed at or near the top for much of 99 and 2000, until the New York Times was pressured into separating the list into two separate lists, an adult fiction and a children's fiction list, because publishers wanted to give their books a fighting chance. Currently, the book has been translated into 80 languages, including Latin and even ancient Greek. Safe to say, it's cast quite a spell on all of us. I'm Radio Matt. See you next time for more
Nerd history.
As we close out for today, what's that number one that you picked up that others should be looking at?
My number one was I picked up X-Men: The Trial of Magneto, number one. Which you don't have to have a ton of background information because I know there's 40 million X-Men books.
Just a few.
Just a few. But and this is on the cover, so this isn't a spoiler. Scarlet Witch is dead. And that's not a big deal in mutantdom, right? Because you can resurrect people.
Right.
Scarlet Witch isn't a mutant.
Womp womp.
Her and Quicksilver are a different breed of something. And so she does not qualify for resurrection protocols on Krakoa.
Right.
And they even bring it to a vote of, should we allow this non-mutant to be resurrected? And the council's like, no. And Magneto is, obviously by the title, it's the trial of Magneto because all of the evidence points towards Magneto. And Magneto's on the council. So you get 3 or 4 different X-Men teams investigating this thing, and it comes to a head with a giant battle of everybody and their mama versus Magneto. Which, I just gotta say, if you want to give a self-sustaining, satisfying X-Men book, you throw everybody and your mama at Magneto, and you got it. So, I think it's a good choice right now to do this on the heels of WandaVision, where people that don't know a lot about Wanda can still jump in and say, oh, I identify with this character now, and go. So it's fun, and basically all you need to know is Wanda went to the X-Men gala, or the X-Men gala, and never came home, and they're investigating her murder. Fun.
Okay. So my choice is weird. That's what I got for you. Weird. So Echo Lands #1 from Image is really difficult for me to describe what the plot is because I'm still not 100% sure. But it seems to be taking place in a world that is high fantasy crossed with alternate history. I think is a fair way to describe what I'm seeing. You're following a protagonist that is fighting lots of stuff that appear to be some type of Nazis that I don't know why they're Nazis, but she feels very D&D with her adventuring party in this world. So that's why I say high fantasy, alternate history, because I got nothing. But it's very action-packed. It is very mature. But this book, I took it out of the bag and board, and I realized that the staples were not on the long side. They were on the short side. The entire book is printed in the landscape position, not the portrait. And it is laid out that way, so it is long. But it's the same size as a regular comic book, but it is oriented in the opposite direction. I'm generally not one for gimmicks, but I'm not sure this is a gimmick as it was an artistic choice because it has completely changed the space and the panel layouts for a book. So if you're looking for something that is just wild, but is really well drawn, and again, is incredibly violent, and want to see what storytelling feels like literally flipping the script of comics on its side, pick it up. I'm curious to read #2 to see where it is going, to see if we get some structure. I get a first book, usually, especially out of Image, is to shock us or to get us. And they do that. So I'm going to need #2 to know for sure what's really happening. But if you're just looking for something different, I always want to provide you options that may be artistic choices, and you're either going to love it or hate it. So that was kind of my #1. I wish I had more to say about it, but if you're looking for that really high action, fairly mature, but doing something artistically different, Echo Lands #1 is it for me. And that's going to do it for us here at the Pull List Podcast. Episode 57 is now in the books and now in your ears. Hector and I want to thank you for choosing us as your primary comic book knowledge factory on a near weekly basis, so don't leave us hanging. Rate and review the show on your podcasting app of choice. We're on the iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, and so many more. There's just so many places you can give us those 5 stars. And we thank you for coming along for the ride. And let's see. Nah, I don't have a Hamilton reference on the way out. So thanks for listening. And remember, kids, read more comics.
Because history has its eye on you.
Gonna take all 7 continents as a game of risk.